All right, so here we are. We're at the Arboretum. We're at the shovels, the famous shovels. I did a little bit of running yesterday, ran some hills over here, did some hill sprints, and I'm just gonna just run real light for on and off for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I'll probably do some interval runs that represent anywhere between 100 meters and like maybe 300 meters ish. Just estimating in my own head, just having fun, just kind of playing with it. And the warm-up is the same as always. You just go like this and then start moving. Just a little light jog. Yeah, I had a heel injury for many months. Kind of dragged on. I stopped running completely. Just discontinued it. Rather than like trying to force it, I just stopped. Let the thing heal up. I did a bunch of stuff for it, and that was helpful. And then I still had some pain, and it wasn't fully going away. And then I had a guy come out and perform some voodoo on me. The name of the company is called Square One, and I'm not trying to give you a sales pitch or anything, but I had the pain. The guy did a bunch of weird tricks on me for 2 hours. We have the footage. And then the pain isn't completely gone. My left, which is the one that I injured, does not feel quite like my right. So when I push into it really hard, it's still a little bit of pain in there, but the guy got rid of like 90% of it, I'd say. And I feel plenty capable of just going full speed. So that's kind of weird. I've had a lot of help. I have Oscar Ogluween here in town, who's master body worker. Everything he does is really helpful and useful too. And that's definitely played a role. I've given it a lot of time, and then I've been working on it a lot on my own, as I've shown you guys before, the myofascial release and stuff. Got a little bit of a hill here. Put a little spice on it. Try to put a really strong emphasis on nasal breathing. Take all these opportunities to get better. So even just making sure I'm landing well with every step, whether it's down a step or up a hill. Yeah, just really trying to put an emphasis on the nasal breathing, because it helps keep a little bit of a governor on my training. It allows me to do sprints and things like that, and then base the recovery off of only going in and out of the nose. So you do a set, 20 yards, 30 yards, 100 yards, whatever it might be, and then you try to recover through the nose, which is really sometimes kind of gnarly. Over time, you get used to it. Over time, you're able to push your heart rate higher while also still nasal breathing. In addition to that, you're able to make your zone 2 work. You can go faster with a lower heart rate, or faster with a similar heart rate, I should say. So maybe at some point you're running like this, which is just like a 12 or 13 minute mile pace, and your heart rate's 140 or 150. Over time, you'll be able to run like this, heart rate 140, 150, doing a 9-minute mile pace or a 10-minute mile pace. Because I ran yesterday, I'm really feeling it. Normally I wouldn't run 2 days in a row right off the bat, but I'm just trying to get some of this documented. Waking up last night and this morning, I could just feel it. Just like sitting in my bones, because running just is a little bit different of a monster, especially when you're trying to sprint. See, that's one of the differences I'm working on, not just running but sprinting. But you see how casual this is, you know? Like, it can be super casual. You don't have to go out and try to run 5 miles. You don't have to go out and try to run a mile. Just run a little bit and then walk a little bit. And switch it up, go back and forth between the two. Doesn't have to be that crazy complicated. I don't think that I will do anything more than like a 5K. Maybe in training, maybe just for a run, maybe one day I'll go on a longer run. But no desire to do any type of marathon stuff. Part of the reason why I got into that in the first place was just because I got hurt sprinting. I got hurt, not even really sprinting, but just trying to run fast, like 3 times. And I was like, all right, let me come at it from a different angle. So I went all the way around the other way to try to bring my cardiovascular up and my conditioning up. And it worked pretty good. Didn't work quite the way I wanted it to, because I wasn't able to like have them meld together very well because I got hurt. So that part kind of sucked. But yeah, many years of lifting and running and football and pro wrestling, suplexes and body slams and pile drivers and stone cold stunners and whatever else is out there. I've done a lot of those things. They take their toll on you, you know. But sprinting has been a little bit more difficult to adopt because of the max effort nature of like eccentric, concentric. Like there's, I don't know, a lot going on when you're trying to go fast. Oh, yesterday I was walking through here. I found a chunk of gold right here. Look at this guy. He just yelled at me. It's like, pick me up. So I was walking by. I was like, oh yeah, gotta give this guy a try. Hopefully there's not a snake underneath here. So now every time I walk by, I gotta pick that guy up. That's the new rule. Body feels good once you give it what it needs. And what it needs is movement. Lots of movement. I'll run down the hill because I've been working on going downhill as well. Downhill is a real sign that things are going good with your body. It's hard to have a stride because you don't want to, because you don't want to fall. But it forces you to move your legs fast. My goal is to build some strength around this body weight, 215 to 225, and then cut back that weight. And then just have all that strength lying inside there and all the conditioning too. You know, what's gonna happen with my VO2 max if I lose, let's say 10% of my body weight, VO2 max, you know, boom, without really doing, I mean, there'll still be a lot of work, but it'll be more efficient. Whereas like somebody who's my height, who's 160 or 170, maybe they can't really afford to do that, because maybe they'll lose a lot of strength. But for me, it's like I might lose some strength, but I definitely have plenty of strength to hold myself up and sprint and run and be able to handle this stuff. So far we've done a little shorter stuff. I'm going to go a little longer with some of these. I'm just, you know, I don't really like prescribing to really much of anything, but sometimes it's not a bad idea just to have it associated with something. So I'll hop into my Nike Run app, and this will give me some idea of like speeds and stuff. It's all fairly irrelevant. It's very inaccurate, but It does give me time and it gives me distance. So like yesterday I went like 3 miles in my average pace for the entire thing, considering that I was doing this and stuff in between, and literally just resting and sitting, not even doing anything in between my sprints. It's like 3 miles and my average pace was like 14 minutes. So it doesn't really mean shit. I wasn't trying to jog or run any sort of good split time, or I wasn't really doing anything, but again, it's just some numbers, you know. And I could walk jog this whole arboretum, which is approximately 3 miles, and I can look at this and I can say, okay, that's cool, I've finished that in, you know, 35 or 40 minutes or something like that, right? And then next time just try to beat it, or just stay within range of that, knowing that my goal isn't necessarily to try to run this as fast as I can. It's just a metric or measure of some sort, right? I personally don't think any of it matters in terms of like doing an interval, doing things real specific time, real specific speeds. If you're talking about trying to go from running 12 flat and 100 meter to be able to run an 11.5, maybe you need something real specific for that, right? We start talking about goals that are fairly difficult to hit or achieve, or you already developed a certain level of efficiency. That's when you might need to really pay attention to the reps and the sets and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's always super necessary. You know, I do have to admit, genetically, I have a predisposed talent and gift when it came to lifting weights. I was always explosive, not necessarily with like jumping and stuff, but with explosive with weight, and even explosive with like punching power, tackling, things like that from the time I was a kid. Not upper echelon explosive. I've seen those guys before, and I wasn't that, but I was decent. Definitely above average and definitely above even a lot of the guys that played sports, but was not like pro level looking by any means. I trained that way my whole life. Well, I didn't really program a lot of things, always by feeling. Right now, this feels the perfect time. I feel like my heart rate lowered, my breath is more under control. And just like when you're trying to push something hard, you do the same thing with your rest. The way that you feel is not always identical to what kind of needs to be done. I can go by the way that I feel, but it's just a little barometer. And so I also need to be thinking up here, because I'm not only gonna do like 4 sets of this, I'm gonna probably do like 8 or 12 sets of this. If you're getting real blown up on any of your interval stuff that you do, try to really blow out a lot of air and see if you can get it from your belly. You have your lips together like you're going in for a smooch, and really like blow air out, and then when the air feels like it's all the way out, let out more. So you go, and you're trying to breathe in a lot too. Give that a last little extra push, trying to blow off that CO2 to feed these guys. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm thanking these guys though too. They're giving us some oxygen, right? Don't they breathe opposite of us or something like that? I don't know. I never paid attention in school. Should have. Probably could have learned something. This is the Davis Arboretum. People always ask about it. I mean, this is beautiful. I spent most of my like childhood, I lived in upstate New York, and it was very rural. I spent so many days just like laying down under a tree like this, just doing nothing. Like literally just like sort of like lost in the woods. And it's kind of how I got the nickname Smelly. Everybody always asks about that. I wish it was some great fart story that I had, but it's just because I was always running around and just hated to take showers. But always outside getting dirty. Like my idea of fun is just like lay down in the leaves over there and just like not do a whole lot, or like run through the woods or try to climb a tree or any of that kind of stuff. My backyard was, I could just take my backyard and I could walk through it for miles, and I could walk through it. And probably a lot of people don't realize that, because I always say I'm from New York, and then they think New York, you can't help but think of like New York City. And I was very far from New York City. But even being from Poughkeepsie, I'm actually more from Dutchess County, LaGrangeville, New York. Poughkeepsie is more of a city area. It's where Marist College is. But yeah, most of my, I mentioned that to my daughter the other day, that like I spent so much time in the woods, and my son, they were like, what? I don't know, I just never realized that they didn't know that. Probably not a lot of other people know that either. But now you know. I'll just see if I can maintain, like a 7-minute mile pace for 2 minutes. That'll be a really good challenge. I'll give myself a little grace. 7 to 8 minute mile pace. First minute, I was able to stay in my nose. Second minute, no chance. So now, I'm out of breath. Force myself to recover through the nose. So maybe about a minute later, recovered decently, or breathing wise. Breath isn't too out of control. Check out the work of James Nestor when it comes to breathing. I don't know, I don't want to speak in ways that don't make sense for me and say a bunch of stuff to you guys that is incorrect. But I have noticed an increase in my ability, my output for cardiovascular activity, and even my ability to relax in my day-to-day by practicing nasal breathing. I've noticed that sometimes I'm texting and I'm like, I'm like holding my breath. I go to reach for something, I'm holding my breath. One of our guests has mentioned in the past, the end of your breath is the end of your range of motion. What a really clever statement that is, but very true. As you go to bend down and tie your shoe in the morning, your back's tight, you go, and then you're stuck in that position, right? So breath work can be really beneficial. And for some of you that are like watching, going, man, well, I don't know about running, and that's okay. Just practice it on walking. Practice on something else first. It's okay. Just take your time with everything. All this is a long journey. And what's going to make you tough and resilient, and what's going to make you a badass, is doing it for a long, right? Doing it for a long period of time. Not just doing it for, you see people in shape in their 20s all the time. You still give them the head nod, right? But it's not the same head nod that you give to a guy who's most likely 50 or 60 who's in shape. That guy, you want to go right up to him and shake his hand, because that's rare to be able to hold it together when you start to get to those ages, because normally people fall off somewhere. Anyway, one thing I did want to say is, like, we're always pushing, we're always, forcing, but it's gentle. It's gentle forcing. It's like you're pushing, but even more so than pushing, you're more like being pulled. So like, what are some of your goals? What are some of the things that you want to do or achieve? Well, like Tony Robbins has pointed out many times, that thing should be pulling you towards. So when we think about training, yeah, you're gonna push yourself to nasal breathe, you're gonna push yourself to do A, B, and C, but you don't need to be so strict with it. You don't need to be so crazy with it. Start out easy. Over time, I think we just forget. We forget how hard it was for us to catch a baseball. We forget how hard it was for us to learn how to throw a baseball, swing a baseball bat. Probably just tried it and then got made fun of, and then maybe worked on it a little bit more from there. All right, we got another hill to run down, and interestingly enough, we have on the other side, we have a hill to run up. So I'm gonna run down this puppy and up the other side of it. And when I go up the other side of it, I'm gonna give it a pretty good push. Just like I'm talking about, a push, light shove. You're forcing, but it's with consent. I guess we got one more hill. The final hill here, and something I was just going over in my head recently was like, push through the finish line. I think that's an always important thing in real life, making sure you have some follow through with things. But also, when I'm running, it's going to be real easy to let up or let go a little bit before the finish line. So when I run to the shovels, I got to run through the shovels, all the way through the shovels. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.